What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you lot are all doing well. Today I've got for you a crazy Entitled Parents story that comes in two parts. It's a good one, you're not going to want to miss it. Entitled family thinks they own the entire beach. Hi guys, this isn't my story, but a family friend of mine, and after she told me this story, I knew it belonged on here. I'm gonna make this a two-parter since this first part is actually kinda long. Quick backstory, my family, who aren't involved in this story, and family friends own beach houses in a little bay area that eventually leads out to the ocean. There are several small piers within the boardwalk area where families can swim and jump off the piers. They have netting surrounding the pier to indicate how far families can swim. Beyond the netting, that's where boats, kayaks, etc. can run. Unfortunately, on these piers, there have been some entitled people believing they own some of these piers because their beach house is right there behind it. I will admit, our family has had our beach house for over a century, passed down through several generations. Even though we have to walk down the street to get to this pier, I think if anybody deserves that pier, it should be us, lol. Anyways, on to the cast of our story. So we have a family friend, the family friend's neighbor, an entitled mum, her entitled kid, and the neighbor's daughter. The first part of the story happened to my family friend's neighbor, who eventually told my family friend what happened. After swimming hours are over at the pier, families like to go there to catch crabs. Only crabs that measure within a certain height can be kept. Because of the whole thing with social distancing, the neighbor and the neighbor's daughter went to try to find a good spot away from other families so they could crab. They actually got a really good spot at the end of the pier away from everybody else, and they set up their things there. They were only planning on catching a few crabs and then heading out. It was only a few minutes into their crabbing when the 15 to 16-year-old entitled kid came marching right on up to the neighbors. "Hey, you're in my spot." The neighbors looked around, trying to find anything to show that the kid's spot was taken. Nets, cages, buckets, etc. There wasn't any. They were the only ones there. Everybody else was on the other side of the pier. "I'm sorry, but there's nothing here to show that this is your spot." "You need to leave now. This is my spot." "Kid, this is public property. Nothing here is yours. We're only gonna catch a few crabs and then leave. Please be patient." The entitled kid continued to whine to the neighbor for a couple minutes before leaving. The neighbor couldn't believe how immature this kid was acting. Her daughter was only 10 and acting more mature than him. Not even a few minutes later, the kid came back, and who does he come with? An entitled mum who was a full-on Karen. The blonde, let me speak to your manager hair, the sunglasses, long nails, etc. She went right on over to the neighbor and did that throat-clearing thing nobody likes. "Excuse me, I heard you two made fun of my son and won't let him have his spot back." "We never insulted him, and there was nothing here to show that this is his spot. We're only here to catch a few crabs and then we'll head out." "No, you need to leave his spot now." "Lady, we're not going anywhere." The entitled mum points to a house. "You see that? That's our house right there. My son has claimed this spot on the pier as his own. You must obey that or I will tell the authorities." "There is nothing marked on this pier that states this spot is your son's. This pier and this entire beach and boardwalk is public property. I myself can call the authorities on you for disturbing us." It looked like the neighbor had finally put the entitled mum and her kid in a corner. Just then, the neighbor's daughter, completely oblivious to the argument and focused on crabbing, pulls out a small crab from her net and shows it to her dad. Before they could say anything though, the entitled mum quickly butts in. "Give us that crab you just caught. It will make up for all the trouble that you caused." "It's too small to be kept." "Who told you that?" "Well, it's an actual law here." "There's nothing to prove that." The neighbor pointed to a sign that was on a pole directly behind them, explaining the rules of catching crabs. "If you own this pier like you claim you do, you would have known that." The entitled mum didn't say anything, but tried to snatch the small crab out of the neighbor's daughter's net. The daughter started shaking the net over the water, hoping the crab would let go. Thankfully, before the entitled mum got to her, the small crab let go and plopped back into the water. The entitled mum let out an ungodly howl at the sight, as if she just watched her precious kid get attacked by a shark or something. Finally, she grabbed her kid and stormed away from them. The neighbors didn't stay too long after that and didn't catch any crabs. They both just wanted to get the heck out of there after that. And that is the end of part 1. Part 2 involves my family friend and the entitled mum, and her family are the reason a new law was created for the beach. Stay tuned. Now guys, the good news is that due to the power of time travel and editing, part 2 has already been uploaded, so let's jump straight into it. So, my family friend took her family, her husband, mother, children and grandchildren, down to the same pier as part 1 so that they could go swimming. Because my family friend's mum was elderly, both my family friend and her mum decided to stay under the pavilion in the shade while watching everybody else swim. At first, everything was going good and it looks like everybody was having a good time. Then, cue the entitled mum and her family of 20 plus people gathering inside the small pavilion, setting up food, tables and chairs directly behind my family friend and her mother. They couldn't even move or get out because of how close they were and how crowded everything was. Yeah, with social distancing and all that, that has got to be worrying. Now my friend could tell this was the person that their neighbor mentioned before because of the way the neighbor described her. My friend still tried to be civil, and when she saw the entitled mum, she tried to ask her nicely to move. "Hi, would you mind moving your party over a little bit? My mum and I barely have any space to move." "Excuse me, we happen to live here, so we can do what we want. This pavilion doesn't belong to anybody, it's public property." "Whatever, we're still not going anywhere." Now my family friend isn't a fan of arguing, so she and her mum just tried sucking it up and continued to watch their kids and grandkids play in the water. Unfortunately, that was short-lived as the entitled mum's family started blasting music and yelling inside of the pavilion. Then the entitled kid came along in a jet ski. The entire family saw him and began cheering, screaming his name, etc. The kid came extremely close to the netting on the other side of the dock and began doing figure eights on his jet ski, splashing water on other swimmers nearby and creating huge waves. Depending on the time of day high tide and low tide are, the water at the other end of the dock could get very deep, and any young kid at that end could probably struggle swimming down there. Luckily, my family friend told us that everybody at that end of the dock quickly got out when the kids started doing this, and her kids and grandkids weren't that deep in the water, so everybody was fine. After a few minutes, the kid finally left and everybody went back in the water, but the entitled mum's family still hadn't calmed down. Finally, my family friend and other beachgoers saw the flashing lights of a police car pull up to the beach area. Everybody smiled as they knew the entitled mum and her family were going to get in trouble. The mother and her family saw the police car and attempted to ignore it, but suddenly grew quieter. The officer got out of the car and approached the entitled parents. "Hello mum, may I have a word with you?" The entitled mum was all innocent like, "Oh, what's wrong, officer?" "I've been receiving numerous complaints throughout the past half hour in regards to your party causing a disturbance." "What? We haven't been doing anything." My family friend then says, "Officer, they've been yelling and screaming the entire time they've been here, blasting music. And somebody from their family came by on a jet ski, extremely close to the dock, and started showing off." "Mind your own dang business," the entitled mum said. "Well, how can I when I'm less than a foot away from you and you won't move?" "Alright, here's how this is going to work out. EM, you can either move your family outside of the pavilion so that people can have room to sit, or you can leave the beach altogether." "You can't do that, we have a beach house right over there." "Then you can either move your party over there, or move your party outside of the pavilion." "This is unacceptable, you can't do this to us. What is your name? I'll make sure to write a report about you." The officer gives his name and badge number. "Alright then, I will call your station and make sure you get fired." "The station is well aware of everything going on right now, ma'am, and if you fail to comply, we will have you fined and removed from the premises, whether your house is right here or not." The entitled mum was having none of this. So instead of leaving like any other person would do, she grabbed a sandwich from one of the bags she brought and threw it right at the officer. Wow, like yesterday. The officer, without hesitation, grabbed her and cuffed her. The other members of her family were growing mad at the officer for arresting her, but they didn't fight back. "This is your last warning, ma'am. Either take your party elsewhere or I will bring you back to the station. You're very lucky I'm not putting you in my police car right now." The entitled mum finally cooperated and was released. released. She didn't go completely free, however, as her and all of the adults in her family were fined. She was fined the heaviest though for also assaulting the officer. The family grumpily grabbed their stuff and left. The officer didn't leave until he knew they were gone. A couple days later, a law was put in place that no partying of any kind would be allowed on the beach because of the entitled mum. A patrol officer has also been sent to inspect the pier every once in a while each day to make sure that the entitled mum and her family weren't doing this again. And so far, since my family friend, her family, and my family have been down there, they haven't. But they're still extremely loud and blasting music on the beach and inside their house. That's my entitled parent story. Hope you guys enjoyed. Wow, well that was quite the roller coaster. I'm not completely sure what to think about that, to be honest. I mean, first of all, this entitled mum and her entire family, I'm not really sure how many people there were, but it sounds like quite a lot, are clearly just very, very inconsiderate people. I mean, having a party in your own house with loud music is one thing. Then you bring it into a public area. It doesn't matter if you own a house, the area is still public, and you're not allowing people to move around you. You have so many people. Yeah, that's not a good thing, especially, you know, with all this social distancing and quarantine going on and people having to stay away from other people. Being put in that position that you guys were put in part one, that's going to be a horrible feeling. But secondly, the ignorance, right? Thinking, oh, just because I own a house over there means that I can come over here to this public beach and just do whatever I want. Have no real consideration for any other person. By the way, there's more than just one house there. The family friend and you also have a house there. Do they own the beach as well? No, it's public. Yeah, I'm just not sure about that from a logical standpoint. It's like I own a beach house so I can do whatever I want, but no, there are lots of people in the world that own beach houses and you can't all do whatever you want. You all have to be considerate of one another and then together probably have a good time, right? Why is it that just one family tries to ruin it for everyone? I don't really know. Honestly, I'm slightly a little bit annoyed that the officer kind of bottled it and didn't arrest her. I mean, it would have been annoying to have to arrest somebody, but come on, she was disrupting the public peace, and then she assaulted the officer. Yes, it was only a sandwich, but that's still assault. If I was the officer in that situation, I might have thought to myself, you know what, this mum is clearly annoying everyone here. Let's just help everyone out and just take her back to the station for a couple of days. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of Entitled Parents. I really hope you have enjoyed this two-part story. I don't normally do things like this, you know, longer-based stories. I tend to stick to smaller stories so we can get 3 or 4 per episode. But hey, let me know what you thought of this change up if you liked it. Remember, guys, to hit the subscribe button and turn notifications on so you never miss a daily upload from me. And also, if you want more immediately, loads of stuff on the end screen right now. You can see it. I don't have to tell you about it. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow for a brand new upload.